Prior to Upwardly Global, the narrative for America's skilled newcomers was that they would come to the U.S. and struggle and sacrifice their careers so that the next generation could have the opportunities afforded by our country. The message that they got when they arrived here was that their foreign degrees and experience didn't count. Our country's expectations and our employment system yielded only low-wage jobs, regardless of the job seeker's education or skills. Many of our parents and grandparents immigrated into this America. But that can't be the story of tomorrow's America. There are over 3 million open job positions in the United States today. And the overwhelming reason stated by employers for unfilled positions is the difficulty in finding the skilled and experienced workers they need. That's why Upwardly Global is changing the perception and expectation of what is possible for foreign-educated professionals. No longer is it okay for an engineer from Pakistan to drive a cab or an orthopedic surgeon from Iraq to work as a hot dog vendor. Through our programs, immigrants are rebuilding their careers and lives in the U.S., not 2 generations later, but today, when we need them. Well, we've proven that our model works. Our objective now is to take it to scale, to move from helping hundreds to impacting several thousand skilled immigrants each year. In the last 2 years, we've received requests from 11 metropolitan areas to help bring Upglow to their cities, their companies, and struggling skilled immigrant populations in their communities. We want to be able to respond to this request by setting up new programs. We want to take our services online to enable job seekers across the country to find the information, training, and connections needed to rebuild their careers and lives. And we want to influence the current systems where these job seekers go for advice and assistance: the Workforce One-Stop Centers, the Refugee Resettlement Volunteer Agencies, and our community colleges, to provide the guidance and soft skills training we know makes a permanent and lasting difference in the economic stability and vitality of immigrant families. There are 3 leverage points that we will need to address in order to be successful in scaling. The first is our ability to build online tools and services that can truly impact learning and make critical connections for skilled newcomers. The second is our ability to partner with the current distribution channels for our work: the community colleges, the Workforce One-Stops, and the refugee resettlement agencies where our job seekers are already going for advice. And the last is our ability to gain the attention of more private and corporate foundations, to obtain government funding, and to attract major donor contributions in the direction of high impact and high return on investment workforce development efforts like ours. Upwardly Global is effective for 2 reasons. We measure our results, and we attract and keep the best people. We're highly results-oriented, so we use a balanced scorecard to set our annual goals and track our progress quarterly against those goals. We meet those goals because we hire and retain amazing people. Our leadership team consists of professionals with an average of over 15 years of experience in the corporate and nonprofit sectors. They are talented, hardworking people, and they reflect the professionalism of our corporate partners. They model hard work and dedication, 2 traits we tell our job seekers it takes to see big goals realized. And we continue to find the funding to both invest in and reward our leadership team in ways that reflect the expectation we have for them and the talent we know they bring to us. We also attract industry leaders and functional experts to serve as our board members. And finally, we recruit, train, and employ over 600 volunteers that dedicate the equivalent time of 8 full-time employees each year to our program. Upwardly Global uses several metrics to measure our success. First, we monitor our placements. We set goals and measure each year the number of job seekers who obtained their first professional position because of their work with Upglow. We place more than 300 job seekers annually right now, and we've increased our results 25% every year since our inception in 2002. Second, we measure our economic impact. We measure the before and after salaries of our placements in their new jobs, as well as the income that's going to that formerly struggling individual or family. We have a minimum annual increase goal of $20,000 to each placed job seeker's family, but currently the income increase is closer to $37,000. Third, we record retention and advancement rates. We aim to have at least 80% of our placed workers still in their original jobs 1 year later, and we currently have a 92% retention rate. Fourth, we count the dependents impacted. We keep a running record of the number of financial dependents who are benefiting from our placed job seekers' new incomes. And our placements impact over 500 dependent spouses and children annually. There are two misconceptions that many people have about Upwardly Global. People often mistake or forget or don't understand the fact that our job seekers are work authorized and can be employed like you or me. There's so much attention in the news on undocumented workers and the H-1B population that professionally trained immigrants are literally invisible. Our job seekers come as refugees or asylees, or through the diversity lottery, or through family reunification. Once an immigrant has passed through these legal channels, he or she has permanent resident status. And the second misinterpretation we often encounter comes from people who believe that these immigrants are taking away jobs from American workers. But that couldn't be more untrue. The unemployment rate of those with a bachelor's degree or above in the U.S. is still only 4.2%. That means that the majority of people who are unemployed are unskilled workers. But we know that the majority of open positions in the U.S. are for skilled workers. When our job seekers are correctly placed in positions designed for skilled workers, it actually opens up more jobs for unskilled workers who desperately need them. In addition, and far more important, the Bloomberg Partnership for a New American Economy just released a report proving that every 100 highly skilled immigrants who fill a job in science, technology, engineering, or math, the STEM professions, are actually creating 260 additional jobs in the U.S. Close to a third of the job seekers that Upwardly Global serves are in STEM professions. In talking about our major accomplishments, I have to start off by telling the story of Marwan. Marwan was a refugee from Iraq who came to the U.S. with 7 years of experience as an orthopedic surgeon. He came here because in his home country, he was working in a hospital in Baghdad where he was serving both U.S. soldiers and insurgents, repairing torn ligaments. When he came to the U.S. as a refugee, it was because his life was in danger. As he arrived here, the only work he could find was working as a hot dog vendor, making minimum wage. After 2 years, he had nearly given up hope. But then he found Upwardly Global. After our program, Marwan secured a position as a researcher in a tissue bank. And not only that, he was making an income of $50,000 a year with benefits. But maybe even more importantly, Marwan was working again in a field where he had something to contribute. And through the tissue bank, he continued some of the work he had pioneered in Iraq, in orthopedic surgery, forming new patents for new technologies here in the U.S. Upwardly Global has placed over 1,100 formerly unemployed skilled immigrants just like Marwan. I think it's one of our biggest accomplishments. We're also proud that we've grown our placement results by 25% every year since our inception, and we're now placing over 300 job seekers annually. We're super proud to call the following companies, all leaders in their industry at a global level, our partners: Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, McKesson, Hewlett-Packard, Western Union, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and Accenture. Here are just 2 companies that relied on our talent to build their businesses: Tissue Bank, who collects tissue samples to advance ocular and musculoskeletal disease research, and Tetra Tech DPK, who helps establish rule of law in developing economies across the globe, enhancing political stability. Our job seekers are not only going to work each day, they're making a difference in the world. and the following agencies sought our advice or input for improving workforce development systems or outcomes in the U.S. and internationally: the Clinton Global Initiative, the White House Domestic Policy Council, the Assistant Secretary of the Department of Education, Office of Vocational and Adult Education, the New Economy Initiative, the New York City arm of Bloomberg's Partnership for a New American Economy, and the International Office of Migration. Funding is always a challenge for a small nonprofit organization. Our particular challenge is that funding for workforce development is seen to be the role of government, but government programs set goals around high volume and low wage job placements for the masses. The private foundations that do invest in workforce development typically focus on low-skilled workers, and they see skilled immigrants as privileged. What they don't realize or recognize is that without an intervention, the outcome for the skilled immigrant workers that we serve is the same as it is for low-skilled workers. It's poverty and struggle. The work we do is about making an investment in an asset that's lying fallow, but once catalyzed, has outsized returns. And it's a niche issue, yes, but it has a huge potential impact. So a big challenge has been that we're only 50 people on the staff and board that's been trying to get that message heard. The great news is that the recognition of this fact and the perceived importance of it are changing, and we can see that. Now we just need to find the leadership in government, foundations, and major donors who will assist us in opening up the capacity to scale what's been working in 3 major markets in up and down economies for many years. There's a number of things that we'd like to do with additional funding. We'd bring our senior leadership team together for an end-of-year planning retreat that sometimes we're forced to do virtually since we're located in 3 different markets. We'd launch a communications campaign to share the positive impact that our placements have had on the employers who've hired them. We'd launch specialized programming for our refugee job seekers. Refugees and asylees are 30% of the job seekers that we serve. Having fled their home countries in fear of political or personal persecution, they face the greatest challenges to rebuilding their careers when they come to the U.S. We'd launch a full suite of online services that could be used to deliver the knowledge and tools we know our job seekers need to rebuild careers that could reach job seekers across the country. And we'd also endow a fund in someone's name and use the proceeds to start a scholarship program for our job seekers in licensed STEM professions. Many of our job seekers need financial assistance for fees associated with relicensing, the test prep, test fees, and licensing fees that are not covered by traditional financial aid. Over time, these expenses can be considerable, and they get even more expensive in the professions that we most need in the U.S., such as medical doctors. Studies indicate that by 2020, there will be a deficit of 20,000 general practitioners in the U.S. We've thought about a revolving loan pool in the past, but it's just not what we do. And on a $3 million annual budget, we have to stay laser-focused on our bread and butter, continuing to serve those we can and demonstrating the impact this population is having on the U.S. economy.